Good morning. It is a beautiful Saturday morning here in Ipswich. Just doing a few odds and ends today, mainly doing some fencing, seeing that it's such a beautiful day. But what I'm doing right now is just I've had this Saab 9.3 in the shed for a while now. It's just sort of the backup car, and I went to start it this morning and it was turning over quite slowly, so it's telling me it needs a little bit of a run. And what I want to do as well with this run is go and get some nails, because I'm going to be putting some palings / pickets on the fence today. I got a whole load of 250 pickets, palings, a couple of days ago, and I want to get some of those on. It's starting to really shape up now, this fence. The only thing that I'd prefer though is that the palings are a lot drier. So what I'm going to do is I would normally paint them before I put them on, and but I can't do that right now because they're still a little bit wet. What they do is the treated pine is a process, and you get them in a large pack, this wood, and it comes straight from where it's been treated, and you get them wet basically. And the problem with that is, as I was saying before the phone fell off the windscreen mount, when you get timber and it's treated pine, it's normally wet, so you need a little bit of time to dry it out, and everything shrinks. So I've got a few dry ones that I've had left over from other projects that I can put on the ends, because I hate it when you have palings and pickets straight up to the post, and you want them to remain there, but they just shrink, and you've got this stupid gap. So I'm just going to take this car for a bit of a run up the battery a bit. And I love driving this car. It's a diesel, as you can probably hear, turbo diesel, and it just has so much torque. I call it the Swedish tractor. I've had this for I've had it in since 2012, when I had to commute a lot. I had a job in Sale in Victoria, and I lived in Ballarat, so I'd work down at Sale during the week and come back home on the weekends. And it's 330 kilometers each way, so I bought this car just for the sole purpose of going backwards and forwards from Sale. As I said, it's a turbo diesel, and it gets, you won't believe this, but it actually gets in the 4s, so 4 point something litres per 100 kilometers. It just doesn't use any fuel at all. Around town, it's probably the same as a normal petrol car, but it's just such a comfortable car. You know, I wish my Mercedes was as comfortable and as tough as this. It's one of those cars that just, I've had 3 Saabs, and I just wish that they were still around. One of the main problems, I believe, and you can hear all my tools and stuff clattering around in here, because I had all my fencing stuff in here a few weeks back, so it's like full of stuff. But I just wish that Saab was still around, because they make cars that cost more than it costs to produce, so that's why they went broke. But this is just the most robust car. It just feels like a tank when you're in it. And this is when General Motors took over. I've had ones from when Scania owned Saab, and they were just the most comfortable cars ever. They were unreliable though. They were crap. Like, you couldn't really put your hand on your heart and rely on them. And everything was expensive. And everything happened at the same time as every other Saab car. For example, a heater core. You know, you'd have to put a new heater core in, at a certain amount of kilometers, because they all just went. So you'd get in the car and you'd smell this sweet, sickly smell, and you knew that your carpet was going to be wet and your heater core needed replacing, which was no mean feat. You know, you might have paid a few $1,000s for the car, and the heater core might have cost, you know, a quarter of that to replace. So you have to put your thinking cap on every now and again and think, man, is this worthwhile owning? So yeah, I had a few Saab 9000s, and if I was a rich old codger, which I'm not, I would get a Saab 9000 and just take it to a mechanic and say, make it like new, or put a new style gearbox in, because their automatic gearboxes were terrible as well. But you just do a resto mod on a Saab 9000 Aero and it'd be like your keeper car for the rest of your life. But this one is just so comfortable. I just love it. I think I bought it when it was about 3 years old. It had like 60,000 Ks on it. Now I've done 192,000 Ks. I think they were about $50,000 new in 2008. And I got it when the laws of depreciation kicked in. I got it at 3 years old off a dealer, and it was $23,000 I think I paid for it. And right now I don't think I could get much for it at all, so I just choose to keep it. So yeah, driving out in the country here. We're just out near Walloon, or going out that way anyway. We'll stop at Bunnings on the way back and get some nails for the nailer. But yeah, what a beautiful day. 14 degrees right now, about 8 o'clock in the morning. No dew in the morning, so you get in your car and it's not covered in dew. You can actually see out of it. This was in the garage, so it's got a bit of dust all over it. But life is good. Life is real good. Be a lot better when we get this fence done, but I actually like doing the process, and I really want to take my time on this. So in a few minutes you can be out in the countryside. Yet I live within 800 metres of the city centre. Ipswich is a city of about 230,000. Admittedly, a lot of those people are living in a new part of Ipswich called Springfield, and I think that in the future Springfield will get so big that it'll be a city on its own, or it'll become part of Brisbane or something. But yeah, really loving it, living in Ipswich. I've had so many people go, you know, why do you live in Ipswich? And I've lived in a lot of places, and I love Brisbane. I grew up in Brisbane, but just the pricing, the hustle and bustle. Brisbane used to be a little country town. I moved here in 1980 from New South Wales, and I always consider myself to be from Brisbane, and I've lived in every eastern state, but Brisbane is the place that I've lived the most, or Queensland is the place that I've lived the most. But we decided to look around Ipswich due to its proximity to Brisbane, where I worked at the time, and the price of houses and the quality of old houses around here. You know, you could get a house for a fraction of the price of its counterpart in Brisbane. And we've always been a single income family, and you just have to think, well, what could I do with, you know, say a house was say $400,000 in Brisbane and it was $150,000 in Ipswich. That's completely different now, but that's an indication of how much they were. what could you do with the other $250,000 to enhance your life? That's what I always ask myself. You know, you can make a house as good as you want, but what are you going to do with the stuff that's left over? So with that other stuff, that mythical $250,000 in this example, we chose to, you know, go overseas. We chose to buy some nicer cars, and we chose to actually furnish our house the way we wanted it, rather than, you know, buy a house that we couldn't afford and sit on cardboard boxes or pallets or whatever. So it's been just such a great thing for us, because life isn't about struggling. I think it's definitely about enjoying it and having a good time. Not a good time. I'm not a party freak by any stretch of the imagination, but by doing the things that we enjoy doing, you know, like driving around and looking for old antiques and bits and pieces that would look good in our house that we can do up. So yeah, just coming into the big city of Walloon. Population not many, but it's getting bigger. Walloon has a new housing development, and it's going to be pretty big, and it's quite nice out here. There are points where it floods, so you want to try to avoid that, but yeah, there's something about Walloon that I kind of like. And I guess that comes to the topic of today's video. I could live anywhere. It wouldn't really bother me. It's all about just making the most of where you live. And when you haven't a single income, unless the single income is a crazy high income, you're hit with constraints. I get that. And I think the secret is trying to be happy wherever you are. You know, I've lived in small country towns, and I was perfectly happy there. Problem is the jobs tend to run out in places with smaller populations, and medical facilities tend to be limited as well. As you know, we've got kids with autism, and sometimes when you have autism, you have other medical issues such as epilepsy that cohabitate with that condition. It seems to be, you know, have that, and epilepsy tends to go with it as well. So we really need to be in a place that we can afford, a place that we like, and a place that has really good proximity to medical services and facilities. Our son has had a number of seizures, and the ambulance has been at our house within 60 to 90 seconds. That's what you want. You know, I for one would love to live out in the countryside, out near Boona, you know, probably almost an hour from here in the mountains. Can't really do that. You know, I would love to do it, but you can't really do it due to that risk of being too far away if Liam does have some sort of an issue. You know, one day I'd like to have something out there that you could live out there on the weekend, but things are so expensive out there at the minute that it's not justifiable to buy something, and it's like $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 just to live out on the weekend. So I'm a bit of a realist, and that's a bit too real. So, but yeah, just learn to be happy with what you've got and where you are, and always strive to, you know, do something a little bit more as well. I love cars, and I do understand that, you know, Japanese and Korean cars are probably the ones to get if you want something reliable, you want something to get from A to B, and wow, they're getting good. They're just so good. You know, I love Japanese cars. I like Hondas. of old. Probably wouldn't buy a new one. There seem to be other Japanese and Korean makers that are kind of leaping ahead of Honda. But I've had like a Honda Integra, and that was early 2000s. And it had its fair share of issues because I didn't pay much for it at all. You know, just a few days sort of pay. But it was just so fun to drive. But it just had some locking issues and unreliable type electrical issues, but the rest of it was fine. But I do like my European cars, and I just wish that they were a little bit more prevalent over here, and they are. They're becoming a little bit more prevalent. But the problem is, when people see that you've got some European car, you know, it might cost the same as a Japanese car now, but everything costs so much more to fix. And that's just how it is. It's just the price that you pay. And if you don't want to do that, just buy something that's a little bit more commonplace. Like the Mitsubishi ASX that I've got for my wife is just it's just the perfect car to just run around town and do things. It's high up off the ground. You're not going to scrape your front lip. It's just the perfect city car for Australia. Perfect city car for Japan is one of those little K cars that's like a square sort of a thing. But it's just so good. So yeah, we've done about probably 20 Ks now. That should have warmed the battery up, charged the battery up a little bit. But yeah, you can hear that diesel rattle on the old Swedish tractor. Put it in sport mode. Watch how fast this takes off. It's not a Tesla, but it's just quite quick off the mark. Just got a lot of torque, but it's got a lot of turbo lag as well. People, when they drive this, they sort of don't get the turbo lag in a older Swedish turbo diesel car. So it's just how it is. Alright, so I'll make some more video for the rest of the day doing some Fenty type stuff, which is probably a lot more exciting than what I'm doing right now, but I just wanted to take the opportunity to have a bit of a drive and talk on this beautiful morning. The weather's been fairly ordinary all week, but today, absolutely amazing. 15 degrees now, in the middle of winter, so that's 15 degrees Celsius, so I don't know what that is in Americanite. It's probably like, I don't know, in the 60s, low 60s, something like that, but just perfect. It's not windy,